Hello, welcome to YCFT. This week, we're talking about the man himself, Leatherface, and some of the more recent Texas Chainsaw Massacre films.
Yeah.
In particular, on Netflix the past couple of weeks, the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre film has dropped, dropping the from the title, which is a direct sequel to the original 1974?
Yes.
1974 film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, directed by Toby Hooper.
Yeah.
Hopper? Toby Hopper.
Hooper.
Toby Hooper. We are professionals. Yeah. Interesting about this franchise, I believe, I could be wrong here, but I am like 99% sure this is the only franchise to have two requels. Two films that have retconned all over sequels and went back to the original film. Because we also had Texas Chainsaw, or Texas Chainsaw 3D, back in 2013, which in theory would be the first requel.
We did indeed. Yeah.
So, I said the second one, the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on Netflix. Do you want to give me? Should we start with that one because it's the most?
Oh, do you want to start with 22?
I'd say I'd start with the most recent
hang on.
one.
Let me just Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. It was slated for a theatrical release in 2021.
It was made by Lionsgate.
Yes. It opened to terrible test screenings, and that was when the decision was made to sell it to Netflix. It was slated for a theatrical release. The initial directors that were involved were two brothers called Ryan and Andy Tohill? Sorry, boys, if I'm pronouncing that wrong. They split from the production during the first week when they were shooting in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the reason why, maybe creative differences, but literally a week in, they split. They are replaced with a guy called David Blue Garcia.
Fade Alvarez was also involved, wasn't he?
I think so.
I think he was also set to direct and had some involvement with the story, and he famously directed the reboot of Evil Dead. And I think you can see a lot of his influence here, but yeah, he also ended up departing the project.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of detail going into why people jump ship. But David Blue Garcia is brought on board. He scraps the original footage and he reshoots everything.
Because he has a cinematography background. And I will give this film straight out of the bat. The cinematography in this film is gorgeous. It looks great. Yeah. There's some of the most cinematic Leatherface has ever looked.
In terms of pros and the cons, a massive pro for this is the way it looks. It is beautifully shot.
Yeah.
You can't deny it.
This film is gory.
As hell.
And with it going to streaming, the gore is uncensored. So it's a perk of it going to Netflix.
It is. Yeah, they really do go all out. I think the main problem with this film is just the general plot of this film, which is pretty important for a film.
It's pretty important. So, to quickly go over the plot.
Yeah.
A bunch of Gen Zers have bought up.
Yeah, they're like young entrepreneurs, aren't they?
Yeah, restaurant owners. They've bought up this town in Texas.
In the middle.
And they're going to auction it off to other Gen Zers and influencers.
Yeah, try and, hit it up with a bit of business, inject a new bit of life into this very quiet, small town. Which sounds like a bad business move, to be honest, but still.
Yeah, it's weak. I think
the character's
gentrification,
weak.
Yeah, so did they steal that from Candyman?
It is a bit about gentrification, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's that old versus
new.
Plus, I do kind of like like, I'm stretching here. The idea that the old is coming in, the new is coming in, so the old isn't worth anything. They want to go and scrap all the old because only the new is what matters.
The idea of that, I think, is pretty good. Unfortunately, it's just not executed very well.
Whereas the original film, we do have a video planned just on the original film.
Yes.
One of the main points of the original, it doesn't actually have a plot.
No.
Every sequel since then has a plot. And this is a god-awful plot.
It's got to be what admittedly, I haven't seen all of the Texas Chainsaw sequels, but for me, this is just straight up, it's a bad idea.
Yeah. The cast, I think they're trying their best, but they're also not interested. We don't spend enough time with any of them.
No, there's really bad character development all the way around
change
here.
final girls midway through.
Yes. Well, should we also talk about Leatherface himself in this film?
Yeah.
What's Leatherface been up?
One more point I want to make.
Yeah.
One thing really annoyed me. They had a chance, like, the surface level character development, because one character is the survivor of a school shooter who has survivor's guilt.
Yes.
Is that going to impact her character in any way?
Not in the way
really.
that
Not
it
in the way
should.
they intended. It could have been so much deeper. All it kind of shows that she eventually overcomes a fear of guns. It's like to eventually use one to defend herself. It's like, is that the message you want to be sending?
Well, that's it.
Really?
That's it. It's like, okay, so she's learned to overcome this fear that she has. Yes, the messaging and the moral of that story is probably not not the best, shall we say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think character development is just one of the many issues that this film has. There are too many characters, too many uninteresting characters, and especially
There's literally a bus full of people that are just there to get killed.
Yeah, we'll talk about the bus sequence in some detail.
So yeah, Leatherface. Oh, they're back to calling him Jedediah. Leatherface has had many different names over the franchise.
They can't quite decide
he is back
what he's
to
called.
Jed Sawyer.
He is.
He has been living in an orphanage.
It
for
was
the past 60 years.
It was an orphanage.
Oh, 50 years.
50. Well, the first film was the
74.
events of the first film was 73. So jump to 2022. Someone do the maths.
He's in his 70s.
Not.
Yeah, someone do the maths on how old Leatherface should be. He's in his 70s.
I think he's got to be, because it is unclear how old he is in the first film. But yeah, so he's been hiding and living in this. It was an orphanage. It was a foster home. The woman who was running the foster home has decided to keep Leatherface as kind of her own little.
We see a
her own
photo
son.
of him, and it's dated 75.
Yeah, so that's 2 years after the events of
Chainsaw
the
is
first
hidden
film.
in the war, so to me, the town hid him after the events of the first film.
There's
a lot. What could have been really interesting backstory, we never find out.
This, for me, is one of the most jarring parts of the film, because in my mind, there is absolutely no logical reason why he would end up in an orphanage.
Yeah, but obviously he has the mind of a child, essentially, but there's no... It's because we're not given any backstory as to why he's still there.
He is not a child in the first film. He's at least 18 years old. He should not have been allowed in a child's orphanage.
Also, we know what happens to one of his brothers. We don't know what happens to the cook.
No, we don't know what happens to Grandpa.
Obviously, Grandpa, in theory, would have definitely aged out.
Well, but this is the thing, because after the events of the first film, we obviously have a survivor who presumably would have gone to the police and said, look, this family living in this house just butchered all my friends and my brother. Why Leatherface was able to escape the law and end up in an orphanage is not explained in this film.
Would have been really interesting. So,
anyway, we're just meant to gloss over that.
The Gen Zers think that they own the entire town, and she's still there in this orphanage, and that leads to a bit of a conflict between them, and she ends up having a stroke or something like that.
I think it's a heart attack. I think,
yeah.
and
it was a great scene when they go upstairs. You actually see Jedediah without his mask on.
It's a very brief moment.
It's very brief, and it's no deformity. Because in previous incarnations, he had facial deformities. He's just a normal-looking guy.
Yeah, just very.
Again, they could have looked at briefly the psychology of Leatherface, but they're like, nah. There's no cannibalism in this film either. That's gone.
No, there is a notable absence of that in a lot of the sequels.
So Leatherface doesn't... It's not a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. It is a massacre that happens in Texas. Just with the same killer.
That has Leatherface in it.
Yeah.
The thing...
he only starts killing again. In theory, he's actually been on a pretty good... no kill...
Oh, I think she's been keeping him in check.
Yeah, but she dies on the way to the hospital. And...
that sets him off.
And again, straight away, it's as soon as you see that wrist break, before he slams it into his throat, it's oh, we're going to have some fun here.
They don't hold back with the gore.
They don't. He gets a new face.
He does get a new face.
Foster mother's face.
It is. Which I guess in his mind is a thing of respect.
Again, because the last thing she says to him was, don't go in my room.
Don't go in my room.
In fear, it's because we see him look. Again, they've never looked at the psychology of Leatherface. Why does he wear a woman's face? It's the thing that links the most back to Ed Gein.
Yeah. Why does he feel compelled to do this?
Yeah.
No one's ever thought to explore it.
No, because he clears I think for the dresses as well, and in the first film he puts makeup on. It's never explored, but we'll go into that more. I think
we will
in
the first film.
So then he's just after revenge there. Yeah.
He wants revenge. I mean, his mum has died of natural causes, but I guess in his mind, he sees that the Gen Zers have spurred on this heart attack because of the stress.
It's similar to the original one. Strangers come into his house and bad things happen.
Yeah,
So I kind of like that mirroring.
bad things happen.
The layout of the orphanage is also very similar to the layout of the farmhouse.
Yes.
I think that's done on purpose. Again, great shots. Great. Do we talk about the bus scene?
Do you want to talk about it now?
Yeah. Because I don't want to give... It's still a very new film, so I don't want to give
It is.
too much away. But it's this bit. This bit is in the trailer. And in the trailer it made me cringe, and in the movie it made me cringe. And one guy... Leatherface gets on with chainsaw. I watched an interest review, something I hadn't even considered. And it's like, this is... The idle chainsaw is the quietest idle chainsaw ever, because he can hear, like, minute things.
Yeah.
But he gets up on there, and they instantly start... They put their phones up.
To film Leatherface.
To live stream him. The comments on the live streams when he's zooming are actually really interesting. They're quite funny.
One of them threatens to cancel him if he tries anything with the chainsaw.
You're trying to you're fucking cancelled, bro.
You're cancelled, bro.
And it's like, that in the trailers made me absolutely cringe.
It doesn't... Here's the thing.
Everything that follows.
Here's the thing. I understand what the director and potentially the writers were trying to do in that scene.
Yeah.
Trying to merge old with the new, obviously trying to make that scene very relatable to young people. It just doesn't belong in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
No, but the entire scene afterwards is a bloodbath, and
yeah,
if you want to watch this film just for like really, really gory and creative kills, then you're gonna have a really good time, because sequence that follows,
it's brilliant.
Is a lot of fun.
Yeah, the way it's shot. The level of gore that you see, it's very stylized.
Yeah.
It's actually like macabrely, sort of almost beautiful in a way, in a really strange way.
And it's like, again, we know none of these characters on the bus.
No,
all.
We get to know the two sisters. The two sisters are part of the business people that have come into the town. They've bought the town. One of the younger sisters is the high school massacre survivor. And we assume that she is going to be the final girl here. It's everything kind of sets it up that she's the one that we need to pay interest to, because she looks different, physically a bit different.
Yeah.
She has a different attitude. She's the one that doesn't want to be in this little small Texan town. So it's like, okay, everything is leading towards we need to be invested in her. And then the film does a bit of a flip, because it's the sister that we end up...
the business. But then it flips back. And it's like, oh no, we are following you.
Yeah. There are some good moments of tension.
I think the sister is a bit, because she's kind of blames herself for
she has survivor's
the old woman
guilt.
dying. No, I'm saying
the other sister. Yeah.
I can't remember. This is the problem. I can't remember any of the characters' names.
The sister that you were talking about is called Melody.
I think she does a bit. I think she tries her best in this film, and I think she ends up being actually a really decent. I don't want to say good. Go as far as good. Decent character.
Actress is called Sarah Yarkin, and I'll be honest, she does a pretty decent job. Like, when she is scared, I fully believe that she is scared.
Yeah.
There are some good moments of tension. She ends up, for one reason or another, being trapped inside the house, and she's now aware that this big bulking guy with a chainsaw is walking around this house. There's a sequence where she hides under the bed, and she attempts to help
a mechanic
who's wandered into the house, which is really good.
That's so good.
She ends up crawling under the floor space trying to get away. There are some really good moments here, but
the guy who plays Leatherface himself, I think, does a really good job. All the ones we watched, we actually didn't intend to do the video like this. Like, we didn't expect to do a versus. We thought we'd just do a straight up review. But every film we've watched in research for this, the guy who played Leatherface has been good, and I think he is really good in this.
Mark Burnham, he is called.
Yeah.
He's not my issue with this film at all. I think he does a great job.
The biggest issue is the plot. The things that we found more interesting was just the questions we had about the backstory of how this situation has came about.
Yeah.
But it's just not...
It's unbelievable to the point where it's like, oh, God, okay. Right from the get-go, it's like, you've lost me.
You've lost me.
I am here for the kills.
You know what I had almost completely forgotten about?
I know what you were going to say.
I can't even remember the name of the character.
Sally,
yeah. Sally is back. Obviously, it's not the original actress, and it's not Gunnar Hansen playing... Oh.
It's... No. Both Marilyn Burns, who played Sally in the first film, Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface in the first film, tragically passed away.
Within a year of each other as well.
Yeah, both quite young. Sally makes a return in this.
Yeah.
And I think regardless of what people think of this film, some people had fun with it, some people thought it was absolute trash. Everyone is unanimous with
if you order Jamie Lee Curtis off Wish.
It's bad.
Yeah. This film would never have happened without Halloween. I keep seeing so many comparisons to Halloween Kills, and I think
I don't understand
feel like we're in the minority. the
Yeah, we were
minority.
the only two horror fans that really liked Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
And we watched it again recently.
And enjoyed it even more.
My opinion is unchanged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sally is wasted in this
So,
film. And
Sally...
that's one of the most ridiculous... I don't want to spoil it, but certain characters go through certain things and you think, you would not be alive for any amount of time. But Sally, she's just... They're obviously... They want that Halloween thing. They want that confrontation.
They want the survivor who's been traumatized all her life to come back to, face the fear, face the monster that destroyed her.
You know it's bad when you could remove her
revenge.
Character from the film entirely and the film would be
Work.
no different.
It doesn't work.
She should have been, if they wanted her character to be properly in it, she should have been a post-credit scene and she should be in the next one.
Or alternately, scrap the whole business side of these young people coming in and just make it Sally's film.
Yeah.
But either way, they've tried to sandwich in way too many elements here, and unfortunately, Sally's subplot is just entirely... It's wasted.
Yeah.
It's wasted.
So, yeah. I think it's a fun film, but you very much have to turn your brain off to get full enjoyment out of it. And if you just want some great kills...
You do. I mean, look, I'll probably rewatch it again.
Yeah, it's on Netflix especially, so it's like...
I'll rewatch it.
It's a great background film.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the build-up to this, we did go and buy... Where is it, actually? I've got it here. We did go out and buy the first Requel, Texas Chainsaw or Texas Chainsaw 3D. And that's how we said we need to kind of do a versus.
Yeah, it's rare we have two Requels in a franchise.
That's it, it's the first time. And so we've got our review of the original film out of the way. So now it's the Battle of the Requels. What is a better sequel to the original film? Neither of these are good films.
No, straight off the bat.
Yeah, neither of these are good films. So the plot of this one is a bit weird because the timeline is all over the place.
Texas Chainsaw 3D 2013. Okay. Right, so let's just cover some ground here. So as we've said, the very first Texas Chainsaw film is set in 1973. Texas Chainsaw 3D is set... Well, it's only meant to be so many years.
It's set in 2012.
It is set in 2012.
But after the opening sequence, which we'll talk about in a bit because it's actually phenomenal.
It's good.
A child is taken, a baby Sawyer, which is the family of Leatherface, is taken and raised with another family.
Yes.
So, what's her name?
Alexandria Daddario. Yeah.
In theory, was 25. In theory, could be playing a bit younger. So this film should have been set in the 90s, and it was originally written to be set in the 90s.
It was set in 1993, which would have put the film squarely 20 years after the first film was set, which would have made a lot more sense. Yeah, Leatherface would have been a bit younger, and it would have made sense for the casting of this actress who was, when you watch her, she is clearly only in her early 20s.
Yeah, because it would have to put her in her 40s to have it set in 2012.
For the 2012 setting to work, she would clearly have to be in her 40s.
Yeah.
All of the characters would have to be roughly around that time. It doesn't make sense. I remember when I first saw them,
there is admittedly, what is a really great sequence of a cop walking through the house with his phone, using his phone as a torch, but he's also he's FaceTiming, and I was like, we didn't have iPhones in the 90s.
This was my...
And I thought that in the cinema itself, even like my younger lizard brain was like,
beyond
that isn't right.
Beyond all of the faults of this film, and there's quite a few, this was the biggest one that I just couldn't get past it.
They're not dressed like they're meant to be in the 90s. There's a tombstone for 2012. It's like, oh, because I didn't notice the tombstone when I first watched it. The second time, it's like, oh, so they didn't just think we'd not notice the phone. It is actually set in 2012.
They're not even trying to put it in our minds that this should be in the 90s.
Yeah.
They just straight up go for a 2012 setting, which it just is...
Saying that. You have this, so that's obviously a clear disregard for logic.
Yeah.
But then you have the opening sequence, which is amazing.
It's a strong start to the film.
It actually is a really strong start to the film. It's set like a few days after the original one.
Yeah, we're back in the 70s.
So the cook, because the actor is dead, is played by another guy.
Yeah.
Who actually played one of the Sawyers in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah.
Grandpa is in it, played by the same actor, because
John
he was
Duggan.
very young when he played him originally.
Yeah, he was
He's
only
now
19 when he played the grandpa.
Gunnar Hansen
Returns.
is there as another Sawyer, sat in the same spot we see Leatherface go sit in after his first few kills in the film.
Yeah.
You have the quiet breakdown scene.
Yeah.
And there's an attention to detail. The house looks great.
Yeah. But I think one of the key things there is that the Sawyer family has expanded beyond the three brothers that we see in the first film.
Which we have seen in previous incarnations that I know you've not seen. Seen.
Yeah.
This is there is a lot more than we see. That
There's
the
a lot
town
of
has issues with the Sawyers. And also in this one, kind of like with 2020, there is no cannibalism in this film.
No. So Sally presumably has gone to the police. She's told them what's happened. Police have arrived. The town have got
one
policeman.
One policeman.
The town have arrived, and in an act of sheer vigilantism, there's a shootout.
Yeah.
It's the town versus the Sawyers, and the Sawyers are very quickly overcome.
Yeah. And one couple take baby.
The baby. Who her actual name is Edith. Edith Sawyer, I think. So she is taken by these two people from the town who have taken part in the
Who aren't
massacre.
great parents anyway, as we find out.
No. And then obviously 40 years later,
I just want to point out that the Blu-ray says as terrifying as the original.
Yeah.
I was not terrified at any point in this film.
40 years later, we have that little baby grow up to be, what, a 24-year-old Alexandria Daddario. Yes, it's very weird timeline.
She does a fine job in this.
Oh, she does.
It's also around she finds out she is inherited something.
Yeah, the basic plot is Heather, the character. She learns she was adopted when she was a baby, because her biological grandma has passed away and she has left her the house. So that's when she learns, oh, I was adopted. You are not actually my real family. So she goes to Texas with some friends in tow and her boyfriend, and they go to try and explore this house. Yeah. Just quickly jumping back to the opening scene.
Yeah.
One thing I do think that is important there is it does raise the question of who we are meant to be sympathising with here.
Oh, it's Leatherface. 100%. We sympathise with Leatherface in this film.
But the opening kill is not. Yeah. It's the Sawyers in general.
Yeah, they
we actually feel. Which, strangely, the Sawyers are not a family we are ever meant to feel sorry for.
Because originally, Toby Hooper did sign off on the original, because he was still alive at the time.
Yeah, he gave it a sign-off.
The original script set in the 90s, he really liked.
Yeah.
And then, through various changes, that isn't the film that came about. So, because it's a grandmother that's died?
It's a grandmother
who
that
married
has died.
out of the Sawyers, so she's a Carson.
Yeah, Werner Carson.
Played by?
Marilyn Burns.
Yeah.
Who played Sally in the original film.
I think it was both her and Gunnar Hansen. This was the last film they did.
Yeah.
The last one they did together.
And I will also, very interesting fact about this film, it's the film that has had the most cameo appearances of all the original cast.
Yeah.
Because as you say, we had Grandpa, we have Gunnar Hansen, we have Marilyn. We've got the three.
We got one from the second one as well. I can't remember his name.
Right. So yeah. So they go to Texas, they go and explore this house. Along the way, they pick up a hitchhiker.
Very rich. It's a nice house.
It's beautiful, yeah. You know, like in the.
This is not the house from the original.
No, it is
film.
not. It is a beautiful house somewhere in Texas. And her lawyer, Heather's lawyer, presents her with a letter that was, written from her grandma, and he makes it very clear you should read this letter because there's something very important in the letter that you should know about this house. Of course, she doesn't. Oh, yeah, she does not read that letter.
If she had read the letter, she would know that
her cousin...
Is he called Jed in this one? I think he is. I think he's back to he's Jed.
He's Cuz.
Cuz.
But she has...
He's living in the basement.
She has her chainsaw-wielding massive cousin just chilling in the basement because it turns out Grandma Werner has been sheltering him.
Yeah, he escaped.
Similar to 2022 with the foster mum.
Yeah.
He's been
sheltered. I saw a
sheltered.
lot of similarities between 2013 and 2022.
And of course, he starts freaking out again because more people have come into his house.
Yeah. There is a great line when the lawyer does eventually, did you not read the letter? And she's like, well, no. He's like, well, it was all in there.
Literally, it's in this letter.
He will come for you. He doesn't know who you are. He knows of you, but he doesn't know who you are.
Yeah, you've got to tell him.
You've got to tell. Because the last time someone came into his house and got away, he lost his whole family. We delve a bit deeper into the psychology of Lev. Again, he
doesn't like strangers.
In this film, I love the mask.
Again, the guy that plays him in this, what's he called? Dan Yeager. He fantastic job.
Yeah, was he the hitchhiker? They leave this hitchhiker in the house while they go off shopping. They met him like an hour ago. So naturally, he robs the place.
He just goes to town. He is the first kill in the film. Well, aside from the massacre at the beginning,
Apart
he
from
is,
all of those people.
aside from all of those people, he's the first one of of the group
Yeah.
that we see murdered by Leatherface. We get some good kills in this film.
Yeah. Because his kill is very similar to the first kill in the original film. Because it comes out of nowhere. It's a bit shocking.
Yeah. We just get, again, just very weak characters, though, in this.
It's like her boyfriend and her best friend have
had an affair.
Had an affair at some point. She wants another one. He doesn't. It's like, how long before that's going to happen, I wonder?
Yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere because she never really finds out.
No, I mean, they do have sex in the barn.
Yeah.
They go to have sex in the barn. And they're doing that whilst Heather is being pursued by Leatherface. She ends up hiding in the graveyard in a open casket.
Because she found Werner's body in the house.
Yes.
So it's her coffin that she's in.
Yeah, Leatherface presumably has taken Werner,
which is
brought it back
grave robbing. That relation back to
yeah,
Evelyn,
it's a little
the killer that he's based
callback.
off.
But yeah, these two, they come out the barn. They're just trying to frantically get some clothes back on because they've.
And they see this guy with a chainsaw in the
and they just
graveyard.
think it's a good idea to draw attention to themselves at that moment. I mean, ultimately, yeah, it doesn't go anywhere because Heather never finds out that her best friend and her boyfriend have slept together.
Which I think could have played in really well because inevitably, because they're cousins, she's going to end up siding with Leatherface because we are sympathetic towards him. And do you not think it would have been really cool for her to set Leatherface on her friends?
Yeah,
Because
it would
of
have
what's
been
happened.
better if there was a justification there.
'Cause the rest of the film is basically the town, the remaining town from that night, now coming after her because they find out Leatherface is still alive and they want to hide their dirty little secret. She does find out what they did.
She ends up at the police station. She sees the case files and she's able to put two and two together.
Yeah.
And that is sort of the turning point for her.
Yeah.
Where she finds out who she really is, where she's come from, the relationship with Leatherface. But I don't think it is inevitable that she ends up siding with Leatherface. I think it's a bit
weak.
Yeah.
Because that guy has still murdered all her friends.
He has just butchered all her friends and her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Who, again, bearing in mind, she doesn't realise has cheated on her.
Yeah.
But for me, it just comes a little bit out of left field that she decides to side with this.
Yeah. It's after he chased her into a carnival. Which, you know what? The 3D in this film, I don't think it's too egregious and too annoying, but there is some very... Kind of like with My Bloody Valentine, when the kills get 3D, they get very CG.
Yeah.
And...
Oh, that chainsaw into the camera.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
God.
the kill at the end. But for the most part, the kills in this are really good.
I think the detective guy, Marvin, who goes through the house.
Oh, that's great.
I think that whole sequence
apart
is
from the fact
great.
it could not happen in the 90s.
Because he's got an iPhone.
Because he's got an iPhone. It's really good and it's really tense.
Tension is good.
Yeah. I like the setting of it being in a posh manner instead of like a creepy...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get another call back to the original as well because I think her Nikki, she's called, but her friend, whom Leatherface has taken and has deposited in this, what is it, like a freezer?
Freezer, yeah.
She pops out, freaks out the detective, and he just accidentally fires off the gun and shoots her stone cold
There's a theme
dead.
in all American movies, the police are useless.
Yes. But obviously we get Pam in the first film. She ends up in a freezer as well, doesn't she? And she does has that little jump scare.
We do end up in a showdown
well.
at the old slaughterhouse, which is a callback to... For the most part,
Yeah.
it's been a long time since I've seen a lot of sequels, but we did recently watch 2003, which ends at a slaughterhouse.
Yeah. Well, it's important generally to the Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, because it is mentioned in the original film.
Yeah.
And that's... You get the worst line. After she saves Leatherface
I can't even...
from the mayor.
Yeah.
And she throws him a chaser. Do your thing, cuz. It's like, oh, good God.
Yeah, Leatherface is getting the shit.
What's worse? Do
kicked out
your
of him.
thing, cuz, or try anything, you're cancelled? What's the worst line here?
We also get another terrible line in this film. Earlier on in the barn, when Nikki and the boyfriend, they're trying to save themselves from Leatherface, and she fires the rifle. Welcome to Texas, motherfucker. And fires the rifle. This is bad.
It's just bad.
But yeah, in the slaughterhouse, Leatherface is getting the shit kicked out of him, and Heather decides, I'm going to save my cousin, who's just killed all my friends, and she tosses him the chainsaw and tells him to do his thing. And he does. And the film ends where...
The ending I actually quite like, because she does take responsibility for him. It's the moment they get back in the kitchen, he sits down and he's just like...
He's tired.
It's that moment of like...
Fuck, I'm tired.
It felt calling back to the original of him like trying to process what's just gone on.
Yeah.
And she just takes responsibility for him, puts him back.
Yeah, this
the post-credit scene is really cool.
Oh yeah, there is a
because
post-credit
they call back her parents come to visit to get a bit of that sweet inheritance. And you don't see Leatherface, you just hear the chainsaw. It's like because
she's set him.
He's been scratching off names of people that have died from the people that killed his family, and they are the last two.
Yes. Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a silly film, but we actually had fun with it. But what actually is... Because it did okay, didn't it, actually?
It did do okay. The budget was 20 million, and the box office 47.2 million.
Okay. By 2013 standards, not fantastic.
No, but it's in profit.
2015 US box office hit.
Yeah.
Was it? It was very much at the end of the 3D phase.
Yeah.
But what do you think actually... So neither of these are good films. They're fun films with great kills, which is weird considering there's actually very little blood in the original film. There's a lot of blood in these, especially 2022. What is the better sequel?
I think better is just a very diplomatic word there. I think, right, the weird timeline that makes absolutely no sense aside, I can see myself rewatching the 2013 one more than the 2022
it's
one.
Like but I'd say like a third of the issues I have with that film would be solved if the timeline made more sense.
Yes, yeah.
And say like we also have that issue with the 2022. The timeline doesn't make... We know the time that has passed, but there's gaps in the story as to how we've got here.
Yeah.
But I actually think 2013, the story for me makes more sense.
I think it is
as to why Leatherface is there.
Yeah.
The switching him, like, we do side with Leatherface and the cannibal family from the beginning of the film. It's a weird shift.
How do you feel about siding with Leatherface? Because this is something that we've seen in a few films.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that shift in allegiance? Because, I mean...
Well, because I don't like any of the other characters. I do quite like seeing them get killed.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that it's happened in a lot of films since the first one.
Yeah.
And it's you're now just there for the kills.
We're just there to see Leatherface do his thing.
As far as plot and reasoning, any type of logic, I actually think 2013 is a better sequel to the original.
I think the idea...
2022 is.
Yeah, the plot of it at least makes sense. And yeah, but
wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. But at least it's timeline aside, again, the actual idea does make sense that she is a relative and she's gone back to Texas to try and she's going to move into the house. 2022, you've got these characters that just want to open up a freaking restaurant business. Yeah,
and they want to sell the town, and
it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't work.
If we had a few scenes to explain why Leatherface is in the orphanage. Just a bit. We just want backstory. Like we've been following this character for a very long time.
There was nothing. We just have to accept he is in an orphanage. We don't know what happened to Grandpa. We don't know what happened to his other brother. It's just no. He's in an orphanage.
Yeah.
Accept it. Move on.
That's it. In both these films, Leatherface himself is great.
Yeah. Both actors, I think, did a really good job. My issue is never Leatherface. I always think every Leatherface has done pretty good in the films that I've seen. Anyway, it's the plot around.
That's the plot. The plot of 2013 is okay.
It is. It's just the
inconsistency with the timeline.
I mean, yeah,
and the terrible writing.
We also have a few things in the 2013, like a lot of it is Alexandria Daddario running around without a bra in a wet shirt, which probably a bit unnecessary. We've got Scott Eastwood in this film, who plays a crooked cop.
Yeah, doesn't get as cool. I think it's because they
literally forgot about his character.
No, I think because they initially were going to do a trilogy.
Ah.
That obviously didn't happen.
That did not happen.
Did not happen because we didn't get... After this, they got... The timeline's a bit weird.
Yeah.
The original timeline is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then 2, 3, and The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Then you've got the reboot one of Texas Chainsaw Massacre the beginning and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. They're their own timeline. Then you've got Leatherface 2017, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Texas Chainsaw. The names are very similar here.
They are.
And then the new timeline of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022.
Yes.
It's easy in the Halloween timeline. But yeah, so they may not have done a sequel to this, but they did do a prequel. So the 2017 Leatherface is a prequel to the original film, and to me, from the ones I've seen, is the worst in the franchise.
Yeah.
It's worse than this, is worse than 2022.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I think we're both in agreement then that 2013 is
I think so.
the lesser... It's not a good sequel, but it's
No.
the better of these two sequels.
I
But
think so. I
there's
think so.
a lot of fun to be had with these films, and that's it. You just got to turn your brain off.
You
Don't
do.
be anywhere near a calendar or anything.
You do.
Like when you watch this one, when you try and work out like the timeline, if that even bothers you.
I think
Just turn your brain off, put it on in the background, and you're just gonna have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think that that's where this franchise would be, considering how horrific the first one is. But now they're just fun films.
I mean, even just downright, the first film, the lack of the gore, that is something that is notoriously absent in every sequel. The gore is now part of, the reason why you watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. No sequel, no requel has ever been able to match, in my opinion, the uniqueness of
Just
the first
by having
film.
a plot, they're massively
A
different
plot
from the others.
alone, and actually
So-
having characters really,
We, again, in research this, we now believe that there is warrant to still do a video on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre
there
in
is.
2022. So
There
that is what
absolutely is.
next week's video is going to be. But also, because when watching these, I really just wanted to... There's a prop. They really made me want to watch the 2003 one.
Yeah.
So I got it we got it for research. And this film is actually really good.
It's good.
And when I watched 2013 and 2022, it just really, really made me want to watch this one again. So
we've kind of fell down a rabbit hole
fell
slightly.
down a bit of a rabbit hole. So we believe that the 2003 one deserves its own video.
Yeah.
So a lot of chainsaws.
A lot of chainsaw action.
But yeah, new ones on Netflix. I heard today, again, at the time of this recording, they announced that I think Texas Chainsaw 3D. They mostly dropped the 3D from the title now. Is coming to Netflix at some point.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the director has said he does want to do a sequel to the 2022 one, and I would watch a sequel. They do have a post-credit scene of them going back to the original house.
Yeah.
It was fun enough, and yeah, I'd watch a sequel, especially if I'm not having to pay for it.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
It's not, if you already have Netflix, it's not costing you anything extra to watch this film.
No, then by no means good sequels.
I think it would have made some money at the cinema at box office.
I think it would have too. I don't really know why the decision was made to sell it to Netflix. I mean, considering how well horror has been doing.
Yeah. It has to be a really bad horror not to make any money.
Yeah. Exceptionally bad.
Like, consider that even Halloween Kills made a decent amount of money. Scream made a lot of money.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And so right now would actually be the perfect time to bring it out.
Yeah, a Texas Chainsaw movie especially.
Yeah, and Netflix didn't advertise it, so I don't think they knew how well it was going to do. But
No.
it's people have been watching it, and people are talking about it.
Yeah.
I reckon Netflix might greenlight a sequel.
But I think in terms of what's my favourite of the two in terms, what is the better requel? At a push, 2013.
Yeah, grim that, isn't it?
Pretty grim.
Yeah. So thanks for stopping by.
Check
Prepare
them
for-
out. Still check them out.
yeah. Especially the 2022 one, because it's not going to cost you anything, because most people have Netflix anyway.
Yeah,
But yeah, the franchise got very watered down.
it did. It did.
But 2003,
Here we come.
we're coming for you. So yeah, we will see you next week.
Bye.